Now to the Mumbai metropolitan region, where we know several big-ticket infrastructure projects are lying in limbo. There have either been delays or escalated costs. But there is another big concern, and that has to do with how the project-affected persons, or PAPs as they are called, have been treated. The planning agencies have failed to rehabilitate these PAPs in their quest to urbanize new towns in MMR. Ashish Bhatia reports.
State agencies in Maharashtra have been vying with one another to announce several big-ticket infrastructure and development projects. From new CBDs to flyovers and mass transit systems, development may take proceeding at full speed, but the people displaced by these projects are still waiting for the promised rewards. Take the Santacruz-Chembur link road for instance. Nearly 64 families which were evicted to make way for the project have been waiting for nearly 3 years for the government to resettle and rehabilitate them.
अभी हम लोग इधर 65 में रहने को आया, तो अभी 80 में हमारा ओनरशिप हो गया, सब पैसा भर के हम लोग खुद का मालिक हो गए। अब ओनरशिप होने के बाद वो लोग ने हम लोग को जगह लिया अपना, तो हम लोग को रूम भी नहीं देते, इतना मुसीबत में डाला।
MMRD ने जो हमको कोर्ट में एक एफिडेविट करके दिया कि अगर 3 साल के बाद में आपका अगर प्रोजेक्ट नहीं होता है तो आपको 1 करोड़ 20 लाख रुपया दिया जाएगा। 1 करोड़ 20 लाख तो छोड़ दो, इस साल का भाड़ा भी नहीं दिया अभी तक, और जो भाड़ा दिया था उस भाड़े के ऊपर इधर घर भी नहीं मिलना मुश्किल हो गया।
These families are now pursuing legal action against the MMRDA to get their dues settled.
After 4.5 years, the situation is as it is, and now the MMRDA has stated on oath that the contractor who was supposed to construct, he has informed that it is impossible to complete the project. I am hopeful that the Honorable High Court will look into it, and they will compel the MMRDA authorities to abide by the assurances which are given by them on oath and which has been accepted by the Honorable High Court.
The plight of the SCLR project affected people is not unique. An RTI filed by Anil Galgali revealed that there are many more who have been similarly displaced.
MMRD के सांताक्रूज-चेंबूर लिंक रोड अकेला कोई प्रोजेक्ट नहीं है, चाहे मिठी नदी का मामला हो, चाहे जोगेश्वरी लिंक रोड का मामला हो, हर जगह जो प्रोजेक्ट से प्रभावित लोगों को घर देने में MMRD की तरफ से काफी लेट लती भी हो रही है।
Experts say most of the problems arise due to a lack of consensus between project affected people and the government on the compensations involved. In some cases, either the location or the rentals become a point of dispute. Affected parties, on the other hand, say the government frequently goes back on agreed upon terms and conditions, while the government argues it was not equipped to handle certain categories of rehabilitation and may have to rethink options in future.
The resettlement options for formal buildings, as I said earlier, have to be newly created. They have to be built. Now, probably everything could not be thought beforehand while these projects were taken up. So, we encountered these issues as the projects went on. And we have tried to find solutions to them as much as possible. But in new projects, probably we can take care of this from the beginning, that we would have some stock ready for housing of resettlement of such PAPs.
The government is trying to strengthen its rehabilitation and resettlement efforts, but it is still a work in progress without any definite time frame as yet.
There are many families like these. Children and aged alike have been left fending for themselves with the uncertain road ahead. While the city definitely needs an overhaul, the nodal agencies need to ensure that the project-affected persons are not sidelined by ensuring that they plan to the T. With camera person Santosh Jagtap in Mumbai, Ashish Bhatia for NDTV.
The Santacruz-Chembur link road took 11 years to build, and it missed some 12 deadlines until it finally became operational this April. The road is in place, but there is still no justice for all those who were displaced on its route and were promised rehabilitation. Today, all that the MMRDA pleads is that the rehabilitation has gone out of their control. How is this acceptable, and what can the common citizen learn from this before his home also gets eaten up by a mega project and he is left homeless? Joining me in the studio is renowned property lawyer Uday Vavikar and Hemant Chavan, member Netaji Nagar Cooperative Housing Society Association, Kurla. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me from our Mumbai studio. Mr. Chavan, I'd like to begin with you. You and others from your association of Netaji Nagar Housing Society, you've all grouped together, you're fighting for your rights. Till now, what has that resulted in? Have you encountered any official response, any official action in your fight?
MMRDA की तरफ से हमारे जो PAPs है, हम लोग PAPs है सांताक्रूज-चेंबूर लिंक रोड के, अभी तक उन्होंने रिहेबिलिटेशन के लिए कुछ किया नहीं है, एक्सेप्ट खाली उन्होंने बताया कि हमारा रिहेबिलिटेशन बीकेसी में हो जाएगा। वहाँ स्लम है और वो स्लम अभी तक निकाला नहीं है। 3 साल हो गए, उन्होंने प्रॉमिस किया था, एफर्ट दिया था 2010 में कि आपको वहाँ बीकेसी में 450 स्क्वायर फीट एरिया का फ्लैट मिलेगा करके, बट टिल 2014 वो अभी तक क्लियर नहीं कर दिया है।
Okay, Mr. Vavekar, this case is clear. Now, you tell us, what is the legal solution to this mess? What can the residents of this housing society, what legal recourse can they take? It looks like a dead end because the MMRD has completely washed hands of this.
See, actually, it is something really astonishing because MMRDA, these are the 64 families which were affected by the project, and they were promised in Bandra Kurla. There is a promissory estoppel, and there is also an affidavit of MMRDA, where in Bandra Kurla they were promised a flat of 450 square feet to the tune of 1.2 crores cost. But after 3 years they have not got anything, and they have also tried their level best to go to they have filed a writ petition in Mumbai High Court. They have moved the authorities, and till now there is a latest affidavit, it seems, is being filed, which says that by the MMRDA, saying that they are unable to give them the flats there. So this is something, credibility of MMRDA is really in question. And how the projects, because this will affect the other projects, people will not believe MMRDA. Now they are saying that we will resettle them in Tilak Nagar and other places, which is far off, and that also they are not sure by when. Even alternate rent, which was promised to them, it seems have been not given to them up to now. I mean, that has been stopped. So it is something really where MMRDA's credibility is at stake. Their website says something, they are completely stopped by a promissory estoppel. Writ petition is taking its own course. We will know from Mr. Chavan what has happened in the writ petition, but it will take its own course. But nevertheless, it is high time that the government should also move, the MMRDA authorities should also move, because it is a question of 64 families who have surrendered their flats. Today they are tenants when they were owners, and in fact I was shocked to find that where they were staying, they already had a conveyance in their name. So how this can happen? And if it has happened, there is definitely a gross negligence on part of the authorities, and this is going to very seriously affect the other projects of Bombay, because tomorrow people will not move, and then you will not get.
This seems to be like a chronic problem with all infrastructure projects which are planned in MMR in the Mumbai region. Land acquisition and rehabilitating the displaced is the biggest challenge that planning bodies face. What is going wrong there? Are policies not in tune, or is there a lack of will? What's going wrong there, Mr. Vavekar?
I totally agree with you. It is both. One is a lack of will, another is not proper planning, because once you have given an affidavit saying that we will rehabilitate these people in Bandra Kurla complex, you should have identified a place, you should have been kept the place ready, and then they should have been shifted. It was a mere promise, and then now they are saying various difficulties that they cannot do this because of various other. I don't understand, because MMRDA has been given full powers. It is a sheer, as you rightly said, lack of will, and it appears to be a lethargy, because somewhere 3 years is not a short time. People are homeless, and this is going to give, you go on the MMRDA website, they promise so much, and they say we are going to rehabilitate people immediately, we are going to take care, a single complaint would take care. At this juncture, this is really a rude shock to the people of 64 families. And of course, the right step has been taken, writ of mandamus is filed before Bombay High Court, but litigation takes its own course. As you rightly said, there is a lack of will, there is a lack of planning, and there is a lack of consolidated effort to see that the development is done. And this appears from this case. At least this case is such a deserving case, because what will happen is other projects, people will now be reluctant to move, because if this message goes to them, who will like to surrender their premises and without any fulfillment of promises? Right. That is a question, because they are totally stopped by their own promissory notes which they have given.
Yeah. मिस्टर चवन, आप बताइए, अब महाराष्ट्र में एक यंग चीफ मिनिस्टर है जो काफ़ी प्रॉमिसिंग लगते हैं। आप और बाकी जो लोग डिस्प्लेस हुए हैं सांताक्रूज-चेंबूर लिंक रोड प्रोजेक्ट से, आप लोग क्या चाहते हैं गवर्नमेंट से, आपकी क्या मांगे हैं?
एक्चुअली ये जो रिहेबिलिटेशन है, वहाँ महाड़ा का बिल्डिंग हो या किसी भी प्राइवेट बिल्डिंग हो, उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट के पास कौन सा ऐसा रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन नहीं है। वो सबको पकड़ के PAPs अंडर PAPs वो रिहेबिलिट करते हैं। तो जो महाड़ा के है, जो ओनर है, उनके लिए रिहेबिलिट करते समय अलग से कुछ रिहेबिलिटेशन का स्कीम होना चाहिए, ना कि अभी सबको पकड़ के वो लोग डाल रहे हैं कि इन्हें आप वहाँ जाओ, PAPs में जाओ, SRA स्कीम में जाओ, स्लम डेवलपर्स के लिए जो बिल्डिंग बनाए उधर जाओ। तो मेरी गुजारिश है मुख्यमंत्री साहब से कि जैसे ही प्रोजेक्ट बनते हैं, प्रोजेक्ट के लिए हम लोग की ना नहीं है, लेकिन एक क्लियर प्रोग्राम होना चाहिए। उसके लिए हम लोग सपोर्ट तो कर रहे हैं, हम लोग ने पहले ही सपोर्ट किया है SCLR के लिए, और हम लोग की जो जगह थी वो हम लोग ने दी है। क्लियर सपोर्ट, क्लियर पिक्चर होना चाहिए, उसके बाद में ही रिहेबिलिटेशन का क्लियर पिक्चर होने के बाद ही रिहेबिलिटेशन करना चाहिए।
Okay, Mr. Vavekar, what is the learning from this case study? We have seen similar cases in NCR. There is the Dwarka Expressway. The project is important for that region, but it is stalled because rightfully those who are being displaced are not being given a fair deal in the rehabilitation package. There are other cases in South. So, in such a case, what is the learning for the common citizen when the state wants to acquire your land? There's little that you can do, but post that, are there any rights that the citizen can invoke if he is being cheated in the rehabilitation process?
See, number one is learning is that the government and MMRD authorities and development authorities must be aware that this is going to be a long-term image for them, and they must plan in advance for an alternate accommodation, because there are two issues. One is a permanent alternate accommodation, and another is an alternate accommodation till such time such a permanent alternate accommodation is given. In any redevelopment, these are two factors, and I think here a permanent alternate accommodation was not even planned for, or if it was planned, there were follies in the plan. Carefully it must be planned with a time bound program, and during such time, instead of rent, and if alternate accommodation properly is given to them, at least the care is taken. Rightly said by Mr. Chauhan just now, that in Mahada, where you are a owner of the flat, at least you should be treated properly. Alternate accommodation in Mahada should have been given to them, or in any such authorities which is in the same locality, which is quite a close vicinity, so that the families are not disturbed, settlement is not disturbed, and people come forward. You know, in certain areas of Mumbai like Juhu Link Road, I understand people were really rehabilitated well. It's not that they were not rehabilitated well. In fact, they are happy they got permanent good houses which were constructed properly than their kacha houses. So, you know, this will give a right kind of a signal, and I think in the new government, as you rightly said, what we expect is a right kind of signal, because Modi ji always says, "Andhera ghana hai, par diye jalana kahan bana hai." So, therefore, we must take a positive step, and the more duty is casted upon the planning authorities like MMRDA, because otherwise I feel this will be a big signal for them, which will stop their further development, and they have the promissory estoppel and they have the obligation to do it, and speed is an essence. If you don't plan properly and don't give people, I think the projects will get delayed. In the bargain, all of us would suffer. So, I think it is a right time to take an action, and I am sure Mr. Chauhan and their group is taking correct action, not only by litigation, but they must take, as you rightly said, a delegation to our Chief Minister, young Chief Minister, who will be definitely expected to be dynamic and take action, so that they quickly get their shelter where they need be.
Okay, building new infrastructure is part and parcel of the process of urbanization, but urbanization has to be inclusive for all stakeholders. We have so many examples across India that we spoke about: the Navi Mumbai International Airport, the Dwarka Expressway in Gurgaon, and down south projects, corridors. But it's evident that the success of such infrastructure development project rests on how you rehabilitate and resettle the displaced, and state policies have to be redrawn to minimize the hardships faced by the displaced people. Mr. Chauhan, Mr. Vavekar, thank you so much for joining us today.